I'll just welcome everyone to a shiur in commemoration, Professor Joseph Kahane's in commemoration of his 7th yahrzeit, to be given momentarily by Rabbanit Esti Rosenberg, Rosh Beit Midrash and Migdal. Of course, the shiur is Ilui Nishmat Yosef ben Tzvi HaKohen ורחל zichronam livracha. So, bevakasha, Rabbanit Esti Rosenberg.
Shalom lekulam. Thank you, Yoel. It's an honor to be here. Since I want to be here with you together, and part of giving a shiur is not giving a lecture, I was asked to give a shiur and not a lecture. As whoever can open his camera that I can see eyes and thoughts and smiles, it makes it much easier. If not, and you're going to have to look at Klila and Avital that I know, and Rina, and then it'll be much, and Yoel, and respond. What I reflect, their eyes and smiles will reflect for me what it is. But I think that really teaching Torah is not only a type of a lecture, so it makes it easier when there's an easier way of communication. Shalom lekulam. Maybe I'll start because the shiur is in memory of, from my point of view as Migdal or some of yeshivat Acțion, a lot of granddaughters. I hear there's also grandsons or granddaughters-in-law who went to Migdal and learned Torah, and maybe I'll just start in that I think that the role of a Beit Midrash is really to continue on what you have gotten, what you get in home every day. In the Tfilat Shmonayesrei, we say Elokeinu ve'Elokei Avoteinu, and there's one part of our religious life, our basic religious identity that we get as it is in the most basic DNA of our childhood, of our grandparents, of Shinantam Levanecha V'Dibartam Bam, of Torah that comes through Nimseret Midor Ledor. We're right about to be coming towards Shavuot. Is a mamash a mitzvah to teach your grandchildren V'Datam Lebanecha V'Libnei Banecha Yom Asher Amadata Lifnei Hashem Elokecha B'Chorev. And from my point of view, it's very exciting giving a shiur in a memory of a grandfather, of a lot of loved, I said, granddaughters and granddaughters-in-law that learned in Migdal, because I think that really the continuation of continue what is given at home. And I think that the basic DNA of our religious life is given to us from our, I would say, grandparents and then parents, and it's part of our really basic identity of what we are doing in Migdal. And maybe I'll end this introduction with a story that years ago when we founded Migdal, we were sitting down and writing a brochure about what's going to happen in Migdal. So Dr. Shmuel Vigoda, maybe some of you know him. So he was the founder then of Migdal, and he wrote in the prospect, in Migdal, the girl will build her religious or spiritual life, whatever. And he just had there a daughter who was 18 and she was about to come to Migdal. That's why he opened Migdal. He wanted his daughter to have a place to go learn. And after 1 second, then he wrote, in Migdal, the girl will build her religious life. He stopped for a second as a parent, and he said to himself, what did I do until now? He erased the word, the girl will build a religious life, and he wrote, she will continue on and build her religious life. So I think all that we do in teaching Torah as Rabbanim, Rabbaniot, is a continuation of what you have all our students get in their home. And I think home is basic, I said, the basic unit of parents and grandparents. So it's a big, I'm excited to have this continuation of having the zchut of giving a shiur in memory of a loved Ohev Yerushalayim, Ohev Torah, Kohen. I had this big dream to marry a Kohen, which I didn't fulfill, but I think that Kohanim Kehuna is very exciting from my point of view. So thank you, Yoel and Mishpachat Kahane, the opportunity of learning Torah together in memory of Ohev Torah, Ohev Yerushalayim, Ohev et Am Yisrael. And with 2 days, 1 day before Lag BaOmer, but even though I really did not choose Lag BaOmer as the topic of the shiur, but more these days that are between, I would say, Yom HaShoah, Yom HaZikaron, Yom HaAtzmaut, Yom Yerushalayim, this time and year of Geulat Israel, and there's something very moving that דווקא Lag BaOmer, היו ימים של אבלות, היו ימים של תלמידי רבי עקיבא, שמתו אחר כך ימים של פרעות, פוגרומים, מסעי הצלב, and there's a big tikkun in that the day today of Sfirat Omer, after the first part of Sfirat Omer, is much more, has a national mabat of tzibur, of klal, אבל לא רק klal, שלא נוהג כבוד זה בזה, אלא klal that really tries to build את הגאולה. I think שיש תיקון ממש בספירת העומר של ימים של מרד בר כוכבא, של חורבן, נהפוך הוא לימים של גאולה. In this Midrash, which I like very much, I once was really looking for a Midrash for the night of Yom HaAtzmaut. And I looked and looked and looked, and then someone said to me, I heard that you're giving a shiur tomorrow. And I said, no, I have no idea what to give the shiur about. I have no idea what to give the shiur about. If I won't have a Gilui Eliyahu at night, I have nothing to say. And then at night, I opened a lot of Midrashim, and I found this Midrash, and that's why until now I relate to this Midrash as if it's קצת Gilui Eliyahu, because it's very meaningful for my feelings and thoughts that I have around these days. I would say especially the challenge between transferring from Yom HaShoah, Yom HaZikaron, Yom HaAtzmaut, Migalut, Geula, situation of Knesset Israel. This is a Midrash of Yalkut Shimoni and the Pasuk Nachamu Nachamu Ami in Yeshayahu, the first Haftarah, which is well in the beginning of Shalosh Nechamot Haftarah, אחרי חורבן הבית. That's also that transformation of, נכון, שלוש נבואות של פורענות ושבע נבואות של נחמה. Transformation of how Knesset Israel feels, and when Yeshayahu transfers from the first 39 prokim, which are very prokim of פורענות, to Perek Mem Vahala, when we transfer from Yom HaShoah to Yom HaAtzmaut, when we transfer from Nevuot Shel Puranut, from the 3 weeks to Nachamu Nachamu Ami. Yalkut Shimoni is a very old Midrash. It's not one, זה לא מקור אחד, it's not one source. Yalkut Shimoni, as it's called, Yalkut, it's a leket of different types of Midrashim. And this specific Midrash that I want to read together with you and learn together with you has also parallels by Midrash Rabba Be'echa, and also has some of the sources also in the Midrashim on Megillat Esther, Psikta de Rav Kahane, and Midrash, a very real Midrash, which is called Panim Acherim, Midrash al Megillat Esther. Now the Midrash is a bit long, and I got permission from Yoel to read it in Hebrew. I tried to practice reading it in English, but it was really more than I can do. And I felt sorry for your ears hearing my English, reading English. So you have in front of you, and I'll screen it, the Midrash in Hebrew and in English. I shorten it, and we're going to read it paragraph. So also for those that are a bit challenged in Hebrew, they can look at the American aspect of the Midrash. Okay, so we start from the first paragraph. דבר אחר, נחמו עמי. אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא, למי צריך לנחם? למי שמתה אשתו, לא לבעלה? כך נמשלה ציון, במחשכים מושבני כמתי עולם. לא אותי צריכים לנחם? נחמוני עמי. כיוצא בו משל למה הדבר דומה. למי שנשבו שני בניו בחייו, למי מנחמים? לאו לאביהם? כך בניי יצאוני ואינם. כיוצא בו, משל למה הדבר דומה? למי שנשרף ביתו, למי מנחמים? לבית או לבעל הבית? כך הקדוש ברוך הוא שרפו את ביתו, שנאמר וישרוף את בית השם. כיוצא בו, משל למה הדבר דומה? למי מנחמים? למי שנקצץ כרמו, לא לבעל הכרם מנחמים? ועוד משל למה הדבר דומה? לרועה שיש לו צאן, ונכנס ארי וטרפם. למי מנחמים? לא לבעל הצאן? כך צאן עובדות היו עמי. There's a lot of examples. You don't have to understand all of them, but there's one joint מכנה משותף, joint commander, כך אומרים, for all of the examples that a Kadosh Baruch Hu is the one that we have to comfort. I don't want to say he's the victim, but I would say he's the one who's crying, he's the one that needs nechama. right? The pasuk says, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. There's an assumption here. Someone has to be menachem et Knesset Israel. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, 1 second. Before you go to be menachem Knesset Israel, I'll just tell you the truth. Okay? He's going to go to be menachem Knesset Israel. Don't worry. But for 1 second, for a few minutes, for a few examples in the Midrash, and maybe I'll give another introduction for the Midrash. I think that the Midrash is very brave, spiritual-wise. We will see in the continuation of the Midrash that the Midrash is saying things, claiming or talking in the voice of a Kadosh Baruch Hu in Knesset Israel, that if I, Esti Rosenberg, would say those things, I would be thrown out of the base Midrash. But the Midrash is very brave. A lot of spiritual statements about suffering, about comforting, about nechama, geula, guilt. So the beginning of the Midrash, even though the entire Midrash will be a Kadosh Baruch Hu trying to comfort Knesset Israel, I think for the truth, for the spiritual truth, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, 1 second, before I start being comforting you, I want to make it clear that I'm also suffering. Now, it's hard to understand that because Kadosh Baruch Hu, what do you mean? Lemisha sarfu et beito. What do you mean whoever his house was burned? Which is true, Nebuchadnezzar burned HaKadosh Baruch Hu's house, not HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, I know Yirmiyahu is full of Puraniyot, of Nevuot, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, if you're not going to be Choser B'Teshuvah, I'm going to destroy Beit HaMikdash. But Basof, Nebuchadnezzar destroyed HaKadosh Baruch Hu's house. And the Midrash says on the pasuk Be'echad, B'mistarim tifke nafshi, there's a place that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sits and cries. And I think what they're trying to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is very sad. He has to be comforted after the Churban. And maybe, and I don't like to compare a lot for the Shoah to the Holocaust, but it's always there when you read Midrashim about the Churban. And I'm sure that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was he needed a lot of comfort after the Holocaust. His nation was destroyed. Olam Torah ne'eras. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I think, wanted also a lot of comfort after the Shoah. Not only people needed comfort, also HaKadosh Baruch Hu did. So the beginning of the Midrash, stage number 1, if I had a blackboard, I would write, claim number 1 of the Midrash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs nechama. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants Knesset Israel to comfort him. B'tzedek, he deserves it. He's upset. Af al pi chen, lechu upaisu et Knesset Israel. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, I understand you're even more in trouble than I am. Miyad mitkantzim kol hanevi'im v'olchim etzla. Vehi omeret lahem, hech tenachamuni hevel v'tshuvotechem nish'ar me'al. It's not going to be so easy. It's not going to be an easy process to comfort me. אמר רבי אבא בר כהנא, דבריכם צריכים מירוק. עד עכשיו אוזניים מלאות מן התוכחות שהוכחתם אותי, ועכשיו אתם באים לנחמני? Until now, I'm not even sure what you want to say. I'm full of תוכחות. I'm not sure how to say תוכחות בעברית, באנגלית, but that's something you have to really check, because they're basic. Now we're going into the Midrash is going into a deeper stage of all the Nevi'im trying to comfort Knesset Israel. Now, it's a very brilliant Midrash, whoever likes literature. It's a bit long for whoever doesn't like literature. Al Tresar HaNevi'im Olchim. I choose 5 out of the 12. But there's really a process of a parade of Al Tresar, Kol HaNevi'im, going to Knesset Israel and trying to comfort her. Now, it's a brilliant literature, whoever likes literature in Psukim, because what's going to happen now, each Navi is going to come to Knesset Israel with a pasuk of nechama, of comfort from their nevuot, from their book. And then Knesset Israel was going to have a question, a tough question, about with the same pasuk from the same Navi, שזה נבואת פורענות, using the same word usually. הלך הושע לנחמה. So that's the structure of the next 5 paragraphs. הלך הושע לנחמה. אמר לה, הקדוש ברוך הוא שלחני אצלך לנחמך. אמרה לו, מה בידך? אמר לה, יקטה לי ישראל. אמרה לו, אתמול אמרת לי, הכה אפרים שורשם יבש פרי, בא לי אסון, tal is rain, tal is wet. And you said, no, יבש פרי, it's all going to be dry. ואתה אומר לי כך, לאיזה נאמין, לראשונה או לשנייה? Which נבואה should I believe? The first one or the second one? הלך יואל לנחמה, אמר לה, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שלחני אצלך לנחמך. אמרה לו, מה בידך? אמר לה, והיה ביום ההוא יטפו הערים עסיס. It's a good נבואה. אמרה לו, אתמול אמרת, אלילו שיכורים ובכו, אלילו כל שותי יין אל עסיס, כי נחרט מפיכם. It's the same word, עסיס ועסיס. ועכשיו אתה אומר לי כן. Which should I believe, the first one or the second one? הלך עמוס לנחמה. אמר לה, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שלחני אלייך לנחמך. אמרה לו, מה בידך? אמר לה, ביום ההוא הקים מצוקת דוד הנופלת. I'm gonna pick it up. אמרה לה, אתמול אמרת לי, נפלה ולא תוסיף קום. You're not gonna pick us up. ועכשיו אתה אומר לי, כן. Which should I believe? The first one or the second one? הלך מיכל לנחמה. We can already start skipping. אמר לה, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שלחני לנחמך. אמרה לו, מה בידך? אמר לה, מי אל כמוך? אמרה לו, אתמול אמרת לי. עכשיו אתה אומר לי, כן. Which one should I believe? The first one or the second one? The same thing in זכריה, we'll skip it, we'll go to מלאכי. הלך מלאכי לנחמה. אמר לה, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שלחני לנחמך. אמרה לו, מה בידך? אמר לה, וישרו אתכם כל הגויים, כי תהיו לי אתם ארץ חפץ. אמר לה, אתמול אמרת, אין לי חפץ בכם. ועכשיו אתה אומר לי, כן. Which should I believe, the first or the second? So the first stage of Knesset Israel trying to be comforted by the Nevi'im has just failed. I would say Knesset Israel is very, very confused. Which should I believe? They really have no idea. What is the relationship between them and the HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Now we're talking about Churban Beit Rishon. Really the first time in, I would say, in the history of the Jewish people. Nachon haya Beit Migdash. The Beit Midrash was destroyed. What is the connection now? Now the Nevi'im come back and they have Nevuot Nechama. But the same Nevi, 2 months ago, 4 months ago, 2 years ago, used the same words to say bad things. And that's why, if I had to summarize the second paragraph, the second stage of the Midrash, I would say, which should I believe, the first or the second? She really doesn't know what's the relationship going to be between her and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I think she wants to be comforted, but she's very confused. And maybe also a bit spoiled. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu understands that with the Nevi'im, it's not going to work. So he uses the next stage of what next tachmoshet. I don't know how to say tachmoshet by English, but twice I would say the music becomes even more dramatic. אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא לאברהם, שמע, לך נחם את ירושלים, שמע מקבלת ממך תנחומים. So Abraham tries, הלך אברהם ואמר לה, והיא לא מקבלת תנחומים. And I skipped, כשהם פיתו לו, then יצחק goes, and then יעקב goes. And Knesset Israel is not willing to be comforted by anything that Abraham says, Yitzchak says, or Yaakov says. So, of course, the next stage of the music, of the army that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can use, זה משה. הלך משה ואמר לה, קבלי ממני תנחומים. אמרה לו, איך אקבל ממך תנחומים, שכתבת עליי קללות וגזרות קשות. Everything has failed. Kadosh Baruch Hu tried to use כל הנביאים. First I would say, Kadosh Baruch Hu tried to say, I'm the one who has to be menucham. I'm not less sad than you are. Believe me. And that did not work. Then Kadosh Baruch Hu sends the nevi'im, his shlichim, I would say. And it doesn't work. So he sends Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and no, Knesset Israel. Now, Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't lose his patience. And from here, I would say the Midrash becomes, from my point of view, very dramatic spiritually. מיד הולכים כולם לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא, כל 13 הנביאים, אברהם, יצחק, יעקב, משה, אומרים ריבונו של עולם, אינה מקבלת ממנו תנחומים. She's not receiving our comforts. She's so upset, she's so sad, or she's so miserable, or maybe I would say, yeah, it's not working. אמר להם הקדוש ברוך הוא. Now, הקדוש ברוך הוא is very sympathetic. He could have been angry. Could have said, she's so spoiled. What does she expect? What does she want? I think הקדוש ברוך הוא understands that she's confused or upset. אמר להם הקדוש ברוך הוא, אני ואתם נלך וננחמנה. And that's the pasuk of the Midrash. Hevu nachamu nachamu ami. And then comes an amazing, from my point of view, sentence that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, En ra'ui lelech אלא אני בעצמי, מפני שעברתי על מה שכתוב בתורתי. קדוש ברוך הוא says, I have to go because I עברתי, I transgress, לא צריך לקרוא אפילו את מה שכתוב פה, באנגלית, but you can read it on your own, הקדוש ברוך הוא אומר, אני עברתי על מה שכתוב בתורה, which means the Midrash assumes that הקדוש ברוך הוא has to be מקיים his own Torah. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is part of the relationship. והנה HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, even though I thought that I'm suffering together with you, maybe I עברתי על מה שכתוב בתורתי. And then there's 4 examples. בתורה כתוב, לא תעבוד בבחור שורך. ולישראל קראתי בני בכורי ישראל, ואמרתי להם, הביאו צווארכם בעול מלך בבל. כתבתי בתורתי, לא תשנא את אחיך בלבביך, ואנוכי שנאתיה, על כן גם עלי לפייסה. כתבתי בתורתי, לא תסגיר עבד אל אדוניו, ואני מסרתים לעובדי אלילים, שנאמר אם לא כי צורם מחרם והשם יסגירם. כתבתי בתורתי, לא תכלה פעצתך, ואני כליתי במחמתי, כתבתי בתורתי, שלם ושלם המבעיר את הבערה. The assumption is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, it's my responsibility. I did things that I shouldn't have done. Now the assumption that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is committed to what he himself wrote in his Torah, I think spiritually that's very, I would say in Hebrew, marchik lechet, כאילו, never thought of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he's committed to what he himself wrote in his Torah. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you know something, you're right. I did things that I maybe shouldn't have done. I think when we think, what does it mean, מה שכתוב בתורה? מה שכתוב בתורה, I think it's the highlight of what's musari. It's the highlight of what we think that is the right thing to do. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I myself did things that I shouldn't have done, אני עברתי על מה שכתוב בתורה, in some way, maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, I can't even say that, but the Midrash said that. Maybe I exaggerated. Maybe I was too tough with you. I have to go and comfort you. מיד ילך הקדוש ברוך הוא אצלה ויאמר, ביתי, my daughter, which is already a very soft beginning of the conversation. We are now going into the lab of the Midrash, into the conversation, a very deep, difficult conversation between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Knesset Israel, after Knesset Israel had suffered a lot. I think that's what we have to understand, that the Midrash is now taking us into the very intimate lab of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of Midat Adin, or Midat HaRachamim, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu trying to, that the Midrash lets Knesset Israel express their frustration of what happened to them, or their anger. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, Biti, kol kaze lama. Why is all this anger? Kadosh Baruch Hu he's not angry at them. He's talking to them. And I think the answer is unbelievable. אומרת לפניו, ריבונו של עולם, ולא בדין אחוס? Can't I rightfully be angry? I have the right to be angry. ולא בדין אחוס means I earn this. I can be angry. Why? שהגלתני בין האומות, וקיללתני קללות רעות, ולקיתי, עד שנעשו פניי כשאולי הגדרה, ובכל זאת קידשתי את שמך הגדול. In a very simple Hebrew, in English, I would say, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, why are you so angry? And she says, then what do you mean, why am I so angry? I'm rightfully angry. Look what you did to me. And I remained al Kiddush Hashem. Kidashti et Shimcha Gadol. Despite all of that, nachon, I did still being Mekadesh et Hashem. Which is a nice answer. If this was a shiur in the class and not in Zoom, I would really ask, which I think that's the trying to learn this honestly. We would ask ourselves a very honest way, what should HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or what can, or what would HaKadosh Baruch Hu answer on this, I would say, narrative of Knesset Yisrael. Kadosh Baruch Hu says to Knesset Yisrael, why are you so angry? And they give their narrative. What do you mean, why are we so angry? כי look what you did, גילתני בין האומות, קיללתני קללות רעות, ובכל זאת קידשתי את שמך הגדול. Now that's one narrative. הקדוש ברוך הוא answers what I would answer. אומר לה הקדוש ברוך הוא, don't be so. כנגד זכויות שעשית, חובות עלייך. You were not always מקדשת את שם השם. You earned the חורבן, rightfully so too. Because what she's saying to הקדוש ברוך הוא, what do you mean? Look what you did to me. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu rightfully so, which I would say the same thing, is answering to her, what did I did to you? What did you do to me? Now, it's not Esti Rosenberg, it's the Midrash. I'm only explaining, translating spiritual-wise the Midrash. כנגד זכויות שעשית חובות עלייך, שעברת על מה שכתוב בתורה. Now it's in Hebrew. Before HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I have to comfort you because אני עברתי על מה שכתוב בתורה. I did something that I shouldn't have done with what I committed in the Torah. But now HaKadosh Baruch Hu is taking the same language and saying, let's be honest. Maybe אני, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, עברתי על מה שכתוב בתורה, but you also עברת על מה שכתוב בתורה. כבד אביך ואת אמך, ואת כתיב בך אב ואם הקלו. כתיב שופך דם האדם. וכתיב בך אנשי רכיל היו בך למען שפוך דם. כתיב לא תרצח ולא תנאף. וכתיב בך עלה וכחוש ורצוח וגנוב ונאוף. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu saying to her, right, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, we'll go 1 second summarize the Midrash. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you should comfort me. But even though we'll comfort Knesset Yisrael, Knesset Yisrael doesn't want to be comforted, right? They says, who should I believe? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you're right. I really exaggerated. And I'm taking responsibility. I'll go comfort you. He goes and says, okay, why are you so angry? And she says, what do you mean? Look what you did to me. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I did to you? Look what you did to me. Now, the next question is, so what would you answer if you were Knesset Yisrael? And I would assume that the honest answer should be, you're right. You're completely right. Ashamnu, bagadnu. What we say early Rosh Hashanah, ma nomar lefanecha, ma nomar, ma ndeber, ma nitztadak. But that's not what the Midrash says after the Churban. I think the feeling of how big the punishment was, or the situation, how difficult the situation was so big that Kadosh Baruch Hu, Knesset Yisrael, does not answer. Lecha Hashem hatzdaka velanu boshet hapanim, we are so used to. Amra lefanav, which I think is amazing. She says it's your fault. The Kadosh Baruch Hu says no, it's your fault, and she continues. אמרה לפניו ריבונו של עולם, כיוון שהגלתני בין האומות בדין הוא שלא ישמור שבת ולא יקיים המצוות שלך. What she really says, הקדוש ברוך הוא, what do you want? It was too hard, it was too difficult. Now when I read this, really in the I have the Churban, but it's hard for us to identify with the Churban. But when I identify with Holocaust survivors, we all know that a lot of Holocaust survivors, that's what they said. כיוון שהגלתני בין האומות, בדין הוא שלא ישמור שבת. My mother-in-law is an Auschwitz survivor. She survived together a couple of her siblings, but her cousin survived completely alone. And my mother-in-law's reaction to the Shoah, to the Holocaust, to Auschwitz, as she was 14 in Auschwitz, her response, her spiritual response was, HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved me. He was there. She came out, I think, more believing that she went into the Holocaust. But her cousin, that's what he said, and I can't say they argued it, but they discussed it for the rest of their lives. He said, כיוון שהגלתני בין האומות, בדין שלא ישמור שבת ולא יקיים המצוות שלך. And he came out completely not religious. And really, the Midrash gives us the opportunity of saying this sentence, which I think is very powerful. Very powerful. The Midrash says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is willing to hear the voice that said, it was too difficult for me. And willing to say that. I said, if I would say that, they would throw me out of the base Midrash. But the Midrash says, it was too hard. And I think Chazal really, I can't say they identify, but they understand. They let us, it's a very honest conversation. I think the conversation is not only between Knesset Israel after the Churban. I think the conversation is between Knesset Israel after the Churban. The conversation is between sometimes not only the Tzibur, the Klal, individuals in Knesset Israel that feel that something, a big challenge, or they want to be comfort, feel that HaKadosh Baruch Hu nigla alem b'midat hadin, and they're angry. And I think the Midrash says this, you can express your anger. Now, what would HaKadosh Baruch Hu answer? So last time the Knesset Israel said that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu answered, what do you mean? Bedinu shelo yishmor Shabbat, but like you earn this. There was a reason why all these things happened to you, but it's not what he says now. And I think it's so beautiful, the next three words, Amar la biti, higia zmanech ligail. Really, he says, I think HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes responsibility. As they say in Hebrew, he's the responsible adult. Because they can continue on arguing for another few discussions. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will say, you're in fault, and Knesset Yisrael will say, you're in fault, and they will say, Ata avart, and we'll say, Ani avart. And you continue on being angry. But that's not going to lead to any good place. Like in a good fight between parents and children, or between bnei zug, within your marriage, right? Sometimes you say to yourself, okay, we continue on this argue, everybody has what to say. But if there's a love, I think that's why they use the word biti, because I think they're talking about Kadosh Baruch Hu as a father. He understands that he can continue on, and we can argue for next couple of years, or minutes, or moments. But if you want to go out of this circle of being angry, אם רוצים להיגאל, הקדוש ברוך הוא really takes responsibility, ואומר לה, ביתי, okay, I'm the father, and I want this relationship, and I love you, and I don't want to argue, and I understand that it's hard, and בעברית אומרים, I מכיל, I accept maybe, I have place, I can hear you're difficult, but I want this relationship, and if I'm not going to forgive you, I'm not going to use my love. אומר לה, ביתי, הגיע זמנך לגאל. Because if I'm not going to be goel you now, this argument can continue forever. And you would think that Knesset Israel says, wonderful. מיד אומרת לפניו, רגע, she has a bit more conditions. She's not satisfied עד הסוף yet. מיד אומרת לפניו, ריבונו של עולם, אני מתנחמת עד שתראינו באותם הרשעים שציירפוני וחירפו את שמך. Okay, it's not only I also want redemption, נכון? כך אומרים, no. נקמה. אני מתנחמת עד שתראינו באותם הרשעים. מיד אמר לביתי, חייך אני מביא אותם ונפרע מהם. מיד אומרת, מי יתנחה כאח לי? Okay, this is what after HaKadosh Baruch Hu went out of his way to comfort Knesset Israel. He אומר, ביתי, הגיע זמנך לגאל. Something very interesting. The Midrash started, למי מנחמים הוא שמקומפort, למי שמתה אשתו. We wanted to be a couple. We wanted to be כל דודי דופק, שיר השירים. And when you have fights as couples, there's always I think it's a much higher level to be married to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I won't say to be married, but to use the dimui, the example of a couple, of Ben Zug, of Dod Veraya. But Dod Veraya, as we know, can get divorced. And then the Midrash changes their example from Dod Veraya lebiti, father and daughter. Biti הגיע זמנך לגאל, and it ends במילים, מיד אומרת מי יתנך כאח לי, which is a bit more equal, but not equal. Look at the continuation of the Midrash, I think it's amazing. כאיזה אח? כקין להבל? The examples of brotherhood in the Tanakh are not so good. כאיזה אח? כקין להבל והלא הרגו? כי ישמעאל ליצחק והלא שנאו? כעשיו ליעקב? גם כן שנאו. כאחי יוסף ליוסף? גם כן שנאו. אלא כיוסף לאחיו. This is the conclusion of the Midrash. אתה מוצא אחר כל הרעות שעשו לו כתיב, ואתה אל תיראו, אנוכי אכלכל אתכם ואטפכם, וינחם אותם וידבר אל ליבם. והלא דברים קל וחומר, אימה עם יוסף שדיבר לאחיו דברים טובים, דברי ניחומים, כשבא הקדוש ברוך הוא נחם את ירושלים, על אחת כמה וכמה. אתה מוצא כל מה שהיכה ירמיהו, בא ישעיהו וריפא. ירמיהו אמר אין לה מנחם, בא ישעיהו וריפא, נחמו, נחמו עמי. So before we say a bit more words about the Midrash, this is the end of the Midrash. I told you it's a long Midrash. And how does it end? It ends in the word, the conclusion is, Kadosh Baruch Hu, it started that Kadosh Baruch Hu wants him, he wants Knesset Israel to comfort him. And it ends that Kadosh Baruch Hu promises us to be to us not only as a brother, as Yosef le'echav. Lo mishaneh, it doesn't make a difference what the brothers did to Yosef. He loved them, he forgave them, he supported them. And what the Midrash is saying that after Churban Beit, there's this big issue, question. How are we going to continue now? We did bad things for Kadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu did hard things and tough things to us. There's a big question about how do we continue on? Is this going to continue in a loving relationship? Who's going to take responsibility? Does Knesset Israel have the strength to take responsibility? Does the Kadosh Baruch Hu have the strength to take responsibility? And the Midrash is trying to comfort us. It's the Midrash on the words Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. And it's basically saying that a Kadosh Baruch Hu is always going to be there for us. Even though that's not, he didn't have to. We had to be there for him. He wanted us to comfort him. But he says, Biti kol kaz zelama, Biti higia zmanech ligael. And she says, Mit necha keachli. But not only a regular brother, a brother that even though brothers sometimes are not good to each other, but you cannot disconnect your relationship. You can get divorced from your husband, from your wife, but you cannot disconnect your relationship with your brother. And the ultimate relationship is Yosef le'echav, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, I'm there for you. Maybe one more example where we see how confusing it was after Churban Beit Rishon, how the question, which is really the deep question of how we can continue. Who's going to love? We need love to continue. It's not going to work if we argue. It's only going to work if we're going to start loving each other. Kadosh Baruch Hu will promise Knesset Israel, but Knesset Israel also has to promise a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So there's two Midrashim regarding Yechezkel, the beginning of the Churban. The first Midrash is in Sanhedrin. It's a Gemara, it's not a Midrash. Shmuel Amar, Yechezkel is speaking. Okay, באו 10 בני אדם וישבו לפניו. Okay, לפניו זה לפני יחזקאל. אמר להם, חזרו בתשובה. אמרו לו, here's the assumption that maybe we're getting divorced. We need to be reassured that we're not getting divorced. They're so confused or so scared that HaKadosh Baruch Hu left them. אמרו לו, עבד שמחרו רבו, ואישה שגרשה בעלה, כלום יש לזה, על זה כלום. אמר לו הקדוש ברוך הוא לנביא, לך אמור להם. איזה ספר כריתות עמכם, אשר שלחתיה. No, we're not getting divorced. or skipped. והיינו דאמר ריש לקיש, מאי דכתיב, דוד עבדי, נבוכדנצר עבדי. We're not, now there's something disappointing in it, something pessimistic, something very optimistic. The pessimistic is, I would want to be, Knesset Yisrael wanted the dimui of Shir HaShirim, we wanted to be a Kadosh Baruch Hu's bat zug. It's much more, it's a higher level, but then you can get divorced. We need a different type of love. Love with no conditions, love that cannot be separated. And here Yechezkel doesn't talk about love, he talks about responsibility. David Avdi, Nebuchadnezzar Avdi, גלוי וידוע לפני מי שאמר והיה העולם שעתידים ישראל לומר כך. They're going to say, הקדוש ברוך הוא divorced us בחורבן. No, we don't want to continue on the relationship. לפיכך הקדים הקדוש ברוך הוא וקראו עבדו. עבד שקנה נכסים, עבד למי? נכסים למי? העולה על רוחכם, הלא לא תהיה. הקדוש ברוך הוא says, no, I'm here to stay. You can't divorce me. If you want to divorce me, you can't. I'm not going to let you divorce me. That's one side. But another Midrash, B'shir HaShirim Rabbah, also about Yechezkel, brings the perspective of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, changes entire. Here we saw people from Knesset Yisrael, they want to get divorced, and a Kadosh Baruch Hu says, no one's getting divorced here. I'm staying here. Atem avadim sheli. I'm the one who's going to make up. I'm the one who has to release you, and I'm not releasing you. ופה בשיר השירים בדיוק הפוך, באו אנשים מזקני ישראל לדרוש את השם וישבו לפניי, ומי היו אלה? זה גם יחזקאל, חנניה, מישאל ועזריה. אמר יחזקאל לפני הקדוש ברוך, ריבונו של עולם, חנניה, מישאל ועזריה מבקשים ליתן נפשם על קדושת שמך, מתקיים אתה להון או לא? They want to continue being connected to Hashem. They want to be Mekadesh Shem Shamayim. And here, Kadosh Baruch Hu, as we saw in the beginning of the Midrash, Kadosh Baruch Hu here's the one that was offended. אמר לו, איני מתקיים עליהם. הדאו דכתיב, בן אדם, דבר את זקני ישראל ואמרת עליהם, הלדרוש אותי אתם באים? And here, Kadosh Baruch Hu, very dramatic aspect that we saw in the beginning of the Midrash. מאחר שגרמתם לי להחריב ביתי ולשרוף החלי ולהגלות בניי לבין האומות ואחר כך אתם באים לדורשני, which means הקדוש ברוך הוא said, you forced me in your behavior. I think every parent knows that sometimes, or teacher, or everyone that is in education or work knows that sometimes we are forced to punish our child even though we don't want to, right? Sometimes we really don't want to punish a student. If you say like in camp, in a dormitory, if you're not going to apologize, we're not going to take you on this tiyul. Or you say to your kids, if you're not going to behave, we're going to go back home. We're not going to take you on vacation when you're behaving like that. But the parents really want the vacation. We want the vacation. We want our kids to be there with us. And when our kids don't behave good and they force us to punish them, we are upset. Sometimes we really want our kids so much to, sometimes say, you have to ask for, tevakesh slicha. Tevakesh slicha, and we'll go on vacation. And we feel so, we really want them to tevakesh slicha because we think it's the good of the family to go on vacation. But we also know we can't take them on vacation if they're behaving like this. Sometimes you say, we'll help you. Like when they're very young, we even say, ani agid sli, v'ata rak tagid cha. We're willing to do the work for them. But sometimes we can't, we just are forced. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I was forced. להחריב את ביתי. And now you want to come to me? אבל חנניה, מישאל ועזריה, the Midrash ends, בין מתקיים ובין שאינו מתקיים, אנו נותנים נפשותנו על קדושת שמו. So I think these two Midrashim also emphasize in a very strong way how Knesset Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we had a big, I would say, honest, long conversation about the question of how do we continue on? How much love do we need in this deep relationship of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Knesset Israel? Knesset Israel really wants to be connected, but sometimes doesn't behave in the right way. HaKadosh Baruch Hu really, really wants to love us and really, really wants to give us all the good things, but sometimes he's forced by us. And I think that it really raised in a very, I would say, sharp and very honest, religiously asked the questions of how do we continue the relationship when things don't always work as we expect them to work. And after Milchemet Yom Kippur was a very traumatic war in Israel. I was only 2, so I don't remember. I was 8, sorry. I was 2 במלחמת ששת הימים, I was 8 במלחמת יום כיפור. I have memories, but I don't have spiritual memories. I don't have memories of deep connection to Hashem. It took me years to understand what does it mean that a war breaks up באמצע מוסף של יום כיפור. After everything Yom Kippur was built on slicha, ומחילה, the kapara, and a deep relationship between Knesset Israel and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then, in the day that we were looking, the end of, Slichot, Rosh Hashanah, ועשרת ימי תשובה, and 3,000 soldiers, over 3,000 soldiers were killed. And it was a very, כמו חורבן, we had the same questions of what does this mean, and why is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, איך הקדוש ברוך הוא, איך הוא מנהל את העולם, I would say. And my father gave this שיחה, this lecture for educators, לבירורה של מידת הביטחון בימינו, and he was trying really to help them give good answers to the students about the big crisis of so many people being killed, so many young people being killed. And it was published then later on in English in Leaves of Faith. It was translated in Hebrew in the book Be'or Panecha Yalechun, whoever wants to see the entire article. And he speaks to you about 2 aspects of Midat HaBitachon, of trust in a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And he emphasized, and I think that's I found that helping me understanding the Midrash, that really in the ideal, I can say by often ideally, okay, what we would really expect, but I think sometimes we would want as people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Gilui Shechina would be, our bitachon in Hashem would be in the way that we want it. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu really could do our wills. Sometimes when they say in Hebrew, right, תחשוב טוב יהיה טוב, נכון? תפתח בהשם, שיהיה לנו ביטחון, can be a miracle, things can work out in the right way, but it doesn't always work. And my father calls that ביטחון האמונה. Okay, I want to believe that if I'll be botech b'Hashem and I'll behave in the right way, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give me what I want, what I need. And there is a place in that in life. We believe in Hashem and we dive into Him and we really want to believe that things can work out in the right way. I mean, bitachon, my father writes here that bitachon that we expect from Hashem. And in a very, very nice way, he emphasizes on 2 Midrashim and 2 prakim in Tehillim. Whoever has a source sheet, they're both on the source sheet. Shir Ma'alot, the first one that we say when we really want something from Hashem. We really want to be botech b'Hashem, that things are going to work as we want them to work, that things will be good in life. I think that's what Knesset Israel was so shocked. They expected that things would be good in life. And then said, Kadosh Baruch Hu, what do you mean? We trusted you and look what happened. So the first view, my father calls it the bitachon ha'emunah, the trust of faith, is shir ma'alot esainai le'arim, נכון? מאין יבוא עזרי, help me, עזרי מעם השם עושה שמיים וארץ, אל יתן למות רגליך, אל ינום שומרך, הנה לא ינום ולא ישן, שומר ישראל, השם שומרך, השם צילך עד ימינך. We want a miracle. We even think that, not even a miracle, we expect from Hashem. And after Milchemet Yom Kippur, what my father spoke to those mechanchim about, I think what the Midrash, those educators, what the Midrash is really trying to emphasize is that there's also a bitachon, which is not that HaKadosh Baruch Hu would do what we expect him, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu would just do what he wants. And he calls it bitachon ahava, bitachon of love. Sometimes things are not, we don't get anything from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We don't expect from him, we expect to him. נגיד את זה בעברית, כזה יותר יפה בעברית, זה לייחל אל השם. לייחל או לצפות מהשם או לצפות להשם. יחל ישראל אל השם. And things don't work as we expected them. I want to expect to Hashem. I really want to expect from Hashem, but it doesn't always work. And then he brings a different Perek Tehillim, which I think is very moving. Shir HaMa'alot LeDavid. It's less known, so I'll say it much slower, and it's on the source page, but I prefer not sharing screen, but looking at you. Shir HaMa'alot LeDavid. Hashem lo gava libi, velo ramu einai, velo ilachti b'gdoלות v'niflaot mimeni. Im lo shiviti vedomamti nafshi. I don't expect a lot. I try to be very lo ilachti. I don't. But it ends. Im lo shiviti vedomamti nafshi kagamul alei imo. Kagamul alei nafshi yachel Yisrael el Hashem me'ata ve'ad olam. Okay, so it ends with the words Yachel Yisrael. I'm waiting for Hashem. I'm not waiting from Hashem. But I think the most moving thing in that Perek Tehillim is the expression, the example that David HaMelech uses, Kagamul alei imo. Gamul is a baby that doesn't nurse, is not nursing anymore. נכון? ויום היגמל את יצחק. He's already a baby that does not nurse. And David HaMelech says, נכון, אם לא שיביתי ודוממתי נפשי, כגמול עלי אמו. Now think about that example. The baby is crying, and he wants his mother to comfort him. He wants his mother to pick him up. He's on the hands of his mother, but she doesn't have milk anymore. Hu gamul. He's not nursing anymore. She doesn't have milk to give him. The only thing she can give him is her love. Nothing he can expect from her, but he can expect to her. And what my father emphasizes that sometimes we want to get from HaKadosh Baruch Hu bitachon shel emunah. We want to get things from him. But sometimes he doesn't do exactly what we want. We don't expect from him. We trust him because we expect to him, like a baby that that his mother can give him his love. She can give him milk. And that's a way that we also relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ze bitchon ha'ava. We love him even though he doesn't give us what we expected to get from him. And I think maybe if we're using the mashal of mothers and babies, sometimes we punish our kids. We give a punishment, and you send your child to the next room. And you say, no, lech lacheder, my kids are already big. But I remember that sometimes you say, nachon, lech lacheder, stay there until I call you. And he goes into his room, and he becomes panicking and crying. Now, the problem in that stage when the kid becomes panicking is that what's going to calm him down is his mother. And his mother is exactly the same one who punished him. And he's so hysterical that we have to calm him down. And the only thing that is going to calm him down is that his mother's going to pick him up while he's crying. And he's crying because his mother punished him. You have to find that exact moment of picking him up after you send it to the room and let him calm down on the arms of his mother, that you can really start talking to him. And I think sometimes that's what we feel towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you say, Hamakom yenachem otchem b'tor sha'ar לעציון וירושלים, Hamakom that's supposed to comfort us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's the source of comfort, but he's also the source of the I don't want to say punishment. He's the source of the challenge. I don't know if it's punishment, it's a challenge. And I think that this Midrash, why do I like this Midrash so much? Because I think that it really looks, because it's so human and honest. And I think that one of the things that we need in deep connection to Hashem in our religious feelings is honesty. That Hashem is the source of everything, that we can sometimes say hard sentences, and sometimes Hashem does not give what we expected him to give us. But Hashem says to us, Biti, gi azmanech ligael. I'm going to be goel you because I love you. And Hashem says to us, I'll be to you to Yosef lechav. And Hashem's מעניין. זו שאלה מעניינת. זה אותו שורש. I'm not sure. I'll think about it. But I think really that Hashem says to us, the big psorah of this Midrash, after the Churban, and after the Churban, the beginning of the relationship of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Knesset Yisrael is, it doesn't matter what you're going to do. Ani elechem ki Yosef lechav, I'll always be there for you because I love you. I'll always be there. Yosef cried a lot, but I always going to be there because I decided to maintain a relationship of love, and I can be mechil. איך אומרים mechil? I can איך אומרים mechil באנגלית? I can accept. I can handle, even when you're not in your best behavior. I'm there for you. But I think HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when everything is so hadadi, yesh du-siach, it's a conversation. So we, Knesset Yisrael, have to answer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu too. And I said in a very, I don't think I need courage to say it because the Midrash is saying it. And Knesset Yisrael will also says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we will love you even when you do things to us that we don't understand. It's not what we expected. It's not what we wanted. But our relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a relationship of love. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu he promises us to be the Yosef lechav. And we sometimes as individuals that are very challenged, and some in their personal life and tragedies, and sometimes as Knesset Yisrael legamre, we also say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we love you so much that we're going to accept your comfort, and we're going to maintain and continue a deep, deep relationship of love, even we're not expecting anything of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even that all you have to give to us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is your love. And even when things in the world don't work in our personal life or in our בעולם הלאומי, in our nation's life, things are not as we expected, we're always going to be there for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we're going to maintain a relationship of love even when it's hard. We're not always here to benefit from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're here to build a deep relationship of Beit. And when I make this transformation from Yom HaShoah, Yom HaZikaron, Yom HaAtzmaut, Yom Yerushalayim, I think that also HaKadosh Baruch Hu used a lot of love to be goel us, and we used a lot of love to be nig'al, to be happy b'Yom HaAtzmaut, to maintain a deep relationship. And what I think I find the most moving is that Chazal gave us words for this. They understood that sometimes it's challenging. Sometimes it's challenging for Kadosh Baruch Hu to love Knesset Yisrael. Sometimes it's challenging for Knesset Yisrael to be happy in what we have in life. But this is exactly what love is. ואהבת את השם אלוקיך בכל לבבך, בכל נפשך. And the Midrash ends, באמת, those pasuk, לפעמים איוב, שמלמד שלא עבד הקדוש ברוך הוא את איוב אלא מאהבה. וגם אנחנו עובדים מאהבה. It gives me a lot of strength. You can say this is so pessimistic and but I find it, since sometimes a lot of things in the world that don't work as the way Knesset Yisrael would want. Sometimes בדרך הארוכה, we had a tough Pesach and a tough times במדינת ישראל. And I think that the knowing that we have the strength of love, combining in deep, כי לא יטוש השם עמו ונחלתו לא יעזוב, השם לא יטוש אותנו, ואנחנו תמיד לא ניטוש אותו. זה חלק מתהליך הגאולה. Now I really, my תפילות שנפגוש את הקדוש ברוך הוא רק בטוב. But we are completely prepared בהרבה אהבה, לפגוש את הקדוש ברוך הוא גם כגמול עלי אמו, יחל ישראל אל השם מעתה ועד עולם. And I really want to thank you all for your listening, participating, any questions, וגם להתפלל כולנו, that we always have the כוחות to meet הקדוש ברוך הוא in the best, בגאולה, לא בגלות, אלא בגאולה, but it's a long way, עוד יש דרך. Any questions, comments, thoughts that I would be happy to hear, to answer.
But once again, I want to thank Rabbanit Esti Rosenberg and that the shiur was given in Ilui Nishmat Yosef ben Tzvi HaKohen ורחל alav shalom, whose yahrzeit will be Kavbet Iyar, which is in about a week's time, and thank the Kahane and Adler families for dedicating the shiur.
Yeah, maybe I'll just get the opportunity to להגיד shalom to all the people that I know here, and I'm happy to see those from Israel, for the students, those that host my son so nicely. יש פה כמה וכמה כאלה, אז thank you all.